Welcome into the Baselines to Sidelines podcast. My name is Nick. Welcome back. I hope you guys have had a good time. We have a lot to get into today, so let's get right into it. We're going to be talking about, more Rockies moves. This is really a strange offseason for any longtime Rockies fans because for the past probably decade, the Rockies really haven't made a whole hell of a lot of moves. But they've even made more moves. So this is really exciting. We're also going to be talking about, I'm going to do a quick take on longtime radio broadcaster Jerry Schimmel being laid off. And then we're going to get into the trades, the signings, all of that with the Rockies, and Paul DePodesta, kind of his past, and why the moves he's making right now, especially these most recent moves, why they're not that surprising. We're also going to get into the World Baseball Classic. Scandal's not the right word, but stuff that's going down right now. And then Super Bowl predictions. So let's dive right on in and let's have some fun today. Starting off, like I said, this has been a long and busy offseason for the Rockies, not only with their front office moves, but they're actually just making player moves. They're signing players, they're trading for players. One stat I saw out there, which is really bizarre, is the San Diego Padres, NL West rival of the Rockies, have made 0 trades so far, and the Rockies have made 5. Now, are they big-time trades? No, but they're trades to make them a little bit better. And that's just surprising because the Padres are usually a team that they're moving players a lot. They're signing. They've made some signings this offseason, but they haven't made any trades yet. And they're usually a team that, at bare minimum, will do, I want to say 2 to 3 trades, whether it's big league contracts or minor league contracts. So this is very interesting being on this side of things with the Rockies making a whole bunch of moves, but the Padres and some other little bit bigger name teams making no moves at all as far as trades go. That's really surprising. So that's really cool. So one of the trades was the Twins traded infielder Edward Julian and right-handed pitcher Pearson Ole. They traded those two to the Rockies for pitching prospect Jace Kaminska, and also cash considerations. So I would say the Rockies, not trying to be biased here, the Rockies kind of got the little bit better end of the deal, but I like this move a lot because it brings more infield competition to the Rockies. It also brings in a pitcher that the Rockies, pitchers and Rockies, they need them. The Rockies need pitchers, so this is a really good trade, a low risk trade in my opinion. Jace Kaminska, who was in Double A. No, sorry, he was in Fresno. He was down in Single A. I was thinking of somebody else. My apologies. He, those Single A pitchers, yeah, there's some really good ones you don't want to give up, but then there's also a lot of, you don't know what exactly their potential is going to be, especially with competing at altitude. So I think this was a very low risk trade, something the Rockies could easily make a move on. I know Jace Kaminska at one point was popping up on the top 30 prospects list, I think once or twice. But this is a move. It's a move I like. It's a move I like. Because also let me get Julian's Baseball Reference up. I mean, he bats left-handed. It's another lefty bat. I think that makes 3 lefty bats on the 40-man roster right now. So that's a really solid. I mean, the Rockies need left-handed batting. I said that when they picked up McCarthy. Yeah. When they picked up McCarthy, I was saying that even before they picked up McCarthy, because at that point they only had Fernandez, which actually they DFA'd Fernandez, which that one was a little bit of a surprise when they DFA'd Yanquiel Fernandez, because, yeah, he had some hot and cold moments, but also he had a lot of untapped potential, and I thought he could be a player that the Rockies would use in the future. Whether he was going to be a starter or not definitely remained to be seen, but it was somebody that I felt had a future with the Rockies, but clearly Paul DePodesta and Josh Burns didn't. And I know I got this question a couple days ago. The reason why I say Paul DePodesta more than I say Josh Burns, yes, Josh Burns is technically the general manager, but if we're being honest here, the way the structuring is and the way Paul DePodesta is kind of running things, Paul DePodesta and Josh Burns are doing this hand in hand. So if it's a move that's happening, it's not. Yes, it has Josh Burns written on it, but this more has Paul DePodesta on it. Because as far as signings go, as far as trades go, and obviously ownership has to approve this as well, so Walker Mumford is involved as well. But anything that Josh Burns does, Paul DePodesta has either talked about, signed off on, or Paul DePodesta's running things. Which I'll also get into that a little bit more as far as his signings go. So, kind of just answering that question really quickly. But Edward Julian, he had a couple of stints in the majors. He had in 2024 in 2023 he played in 109 games with Minnesota. Had 408 plate appearances with 338 at bats. Batting average was 263 with a 381 on base percentage and a 459 slugging with a 839 OPS. Honestly, pretty average stats. I would say about middle of the road. And for Rockies at this point, I'll take that. I will take that all day long. This is a player that I think he's a good short-term option. I really don't see him being a long-term option, nor should the Rockies see him as a long-term option. But this is an option for the Rockies that it's a solid left-handed bat. And in 2025, he had a bit of a down year. Actually, I take that back. Sorry. Oh, no, he did have a down year. I was looking at his minor league stats. My apologies. He had a 220 batting average, 309 on base percentage with a 324 slugging and a 633 on base percentage. So definitely a down year with 61 strikeouts. 61 strikeouts to 22 walks. Ouch. That's a big strikeout problem. And that's my one concern because, quite frankly, the Rockies do not need another, no offense, but Michael Toglia. Because that was another, Michael Toglia had that long, loopy swing. He corrected it a little bit last year, but I feel like he regressed back to it towards the later part of the season. Michael Tully was just that huge strikeout machine where, yeah, he got that pop of the bat with a home run, but the home runs that he did get were not able to make up for his strikeouts. And looking at, yeah, he had only um Edward Julian only had 3 home runs. And if I'm mispronouncing his name, I apologize. I haven't heard his name pronounced yet, so if it's Julian, which I realize it might be that now that I'm thinking about it, but the the way those strikeouts are my biggest concern because the Rockies have enough of that issue already, but he is a high contact guy. He's not going to be, a power hitter. He's going to be one of those that gets the ball in play. And that's something that I really like. I'm I've honestly, for the past couple of years, have been wanting the Rockies to go more in a contact hitter route where it's less about trying to hit the ball out of the park like the Blake Street Bombers, back in the 90s, early 2000s. This is more trying to get the ball in play, especially at Coors Field. If for anybody who's ever been to Coors Field, the outfield is huge compared to some other uh, Major League Baseball stadiums. That stadium, I mean, you could turn a single into a double pretty easily, not just because of the altitude, but because of how big that damn outfield is. Pardon my language, but that's that's where it's at. So I'm really intrigued by this trade. And then Pearson Ole, he's going to be more of a prospect. He did have a short stint up in the majors with a 5.10 ERA. Kind of, sorry, not trying to give total whiplash, but he had a 5.10 ERA, gave up 38 hits, 22 runs, 17 earned runs, 7 walks with 27 strikeouts. Low walk percentage, like that, love that a lot, actually. So I'm pretty, and he had a fast track through the minors. It looks like he went through single A, double A, triple A. He started it down in single A, got to double A, spent a cup of coffee down there, and then boom, was up to triple A, and then finished the season. It finished the season at Minnesota in the major leagues. So he he had a pretty relative relatively decent stint, and I'm curious to see. I want to see that ERA come down. That is my one concern with Ole, but I think I don't know if he's going to start or have any time up in the majors. He might start down in AAA. I'm pretty sure he's on the 40-man roster right now. So definitely will at least see him during spring training, but he's going to be one to keep an eye on. As far as I don't know if he's going to start up in the show or if he's going to be down in AAA. My guess, just looking at his stats alone, and I know that doesn't totally mean anything, but just looking at his stats, I would probably guess he is going to start down in the minor leagues. But I could be wrong, and if I am wrong, I'm wrong. But I mean, let's see here, in the 14 games, he had 3 losses as well. The one thing I can just appreciate is looks like throughout his whole career he had very little walks and a lot of strikeouts, which is something to really, really celebrate. That is, as a Rockies, you know, as a person who's starting to cover the Rockies and has really paid attention to the Rockies, that's something you have to appreciate because I can definitely appreciate that because you look at some of the other pitchers the Rockies have had. I mean, for a while there, Chase Dollander was giving up some significant walks. I know Juan Mejia had a small stint of giving up walks. And then Anthony Molina was big on walks. So this is going to be a very good one to see him come up, and I really hope that he produces. So there's not too much else for me to break down on Ole, but I like his stats a lot. And then the other trade was the Yankees traded minor league first baseman TJ Rumfield for right-handed pitcher Angel Shivi. Angel Shivi, I was kind of bummed about and a little surprised about. Yeah, he struggled at times the through the season, but when his stuff was on, I mean, it was on. Like when he could get that fastball combined with that curveball and that slider or changeup and slider, his stuff was just downright filthy, and I was a little surprised. I know he had some struggles, but I really felt that with the new pitching staff that the Rockies had signed and brought in, that they could really develop Angel Shivi. Plus, I would have loved to just been saying his name all season because he has an awesome name to say. It's a fun name to say. But Angel Shivi had really a lot of potential that I would have loved to see the Rockies capitalize on. But at the same time, you have Rumfield, who is a first baseman, desperately need a first baseman at this point. So bringing him in, pretty solid grab for. You didn't give up too much. Yeah, you gave up a right-handed pitcher, but I think at the end of the day, this might not be a horrible one to give up. As much as of an Angel Shivi fan I am, but yeah, it was a good pick. He's another one of those high contact, doesn't do a whole hell of a lot of home runs. Yeah, he only had 16 16 home runs down in AAA out of 587 plate appearances with 499 at bats. So he's not going to be a huge power hitter. He's going to be more of that contact with 142 hits, 31 doubles, and a triple. And he had 108 strikeouts, 285 batting average. I mean, that's still relatively good. I'm pretty happy. He had a 378 on base percentage with a 447 slugging and an 825 OPS. I can't hate on that. So I'm not gonna be down on that. The funny thing about specifically the Edward Julian. I apologize if I'm butchering his name. I've never been good with name pronunciation, but with him and with Rumfield, you have high contact guys and you didn't give up a lot. This is kind of one thing I wanted to dive into is also circling back real quick, Rumfield offers good competition at first base, but DePodesta did say in an interview that he is not against, and I forget the interview. If I knew the interview, I would credit it. I just don't. But DePodesta did say that there is an option still on the table to sign another first baseman. So this gives the Rockies more competition if they do that. And there's still some players out there. Nathaniel Lowe, one person I've been pounding the table for kind of a minute, is still out there. He's still sitting on the table. And then Paul Goldschmidt, he's still out there as well. So there's some options out there for the Rockies that and they're not super expensive options either. And, a lot of people were kind of upset about Luis Arraez going to the Giants. One, reading kind of what Luis Arraez was talking about, he wanted to play second base more than he wanted to play first. So the fact that so for him, coming to the Rockies wouldn't have made sense because I doubt he was going to play second. They didn't really need him at second. He needs to play at first. So that wouldn't have worked. I'm pretty sure, based off of what I've been hearing, I know he was a top target with the Rockies. I'm almost certain the Rockies put an offer out on the table to Arraez. But he was not one I was thinking was going to come to the Rockies. I know there were Rockies fans out there that were absolutely pounding the table like, bring in Luis Arraez, bring in Luis Arraez. It wasn't going to make sense. And now hearing that he just didn't want to play first base, he wanted to play second. Well, there's your answer right there. He wasn't coming to the Rockies. But I'm okay with that because there are still very talented first basemen, a la Paul Goldschmidt, Nathaniel Lowe, still out there. And the closer we get to spring training, the closer we get to the season, the cheaper these guys are going to be. Now, are we going to sign, or are the Rockies, I apologize, I should not be saying we, are the Rockies going to be signing them for $4 or $5 million? No, because they command way more than that. But that 9 to 11 million range, that's comfy. That is very comfy to sign a 2-year, maybe 3-year deal for a relatively talented first baseman. I'll take that all day long. I think most people take that all day long. But this kind of slightly goes against Paul DePodesta and how he functions, and this is something I wanted to dive into. For anybody who hasn't been around baseball kind of like how I have, or isn't a super involved baseball fan, you probably never heard of Paul DePodesta. Paul DePodesta got famous because of Moneyball. And I'm not talking just because of the movie, because he was a part of the whole Moneyball theory that the movie is based off of. So if you've ever seen the movie, what Moneyball essentially is in the early 2000s, the Oakland Athletics were, they had cheap owners who were not working, who were not going to sign big players. The GM at the time, oh my God, I forget his name, but the GM at the time was struggling with trying to get talented players, but not, a big contract. Well, they start looking at, instead of just the makeup of the player, they start focusing in on just his stats. Batting average, on-base percentage, strikeout, walks, slugging. Those were kind of the big ones they were looking at. It was more stat-driven than it was talent-driven. Which, I know there's probably somebody out there who's like, no, duh, you should probably look. At the time, that was still slightly new. So you have the Rockies who were looking at, or the Athletics, my apologies, the Athletics at the time were trying to figure this out, and so they were working with the scouts to try to find these players to sign or trade for. Paul DePodesta comes in, who, Jonah Hill's character, his name is not Paul DePodesta in the movie. Paul DePodesta's name was taken out. He wanted to remain slightly anonymous at the time, but Jonah Hill's character is based off of Paul DePodesta. So when you watch the movie, that's him. Now, again, obviously classic Hollywood. The movie is more glorified with what actually than what actually happened, essentially. So I would take some of the more drama stuff with a huge grain of salt. But the movie essentially talks about how the Athletics traded and brought up players from other organizations who had a high batting average, slugging, OPS, yada, 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 but not a lot of, they weren't going to command a lot of money. And they started to bring these guys in, make them more and the talent got better and better through time. And you had a very talented, competitive roster in 2002 and 2003. You can look up the statistics of the Athletics. They were one of those top teams at the time with not a high payroll. This is what Paul DePodesta is doing right now. He's made 8 moves over this offseason. He's made several moves at relatively low cost to only make themselves that much better. It's not like slightly better. It's not, worlds better, but they're better for it. The Rockies are better for it right now. This is very similar to what Paul DePodesta was doing in 01, 02, 03 with the Oakland Athletics. Now he's doing it here. And I'm really excited for that. He is the architect. He was the architect. Yeah, you had Bean. Bean was, I forget his first name, but I know his last name was Bean. He was the general manager, but the architect of the Moneyball, the whole Moneyball thing, was Paul DePodesta. So now that the Rockies have him, you're starting to see that similar stuff come to fruition. And it's really fascinating to see. It's really fascinating to watch the Rockies make all these moves, and are they worlds better for them? I wouldn't say so, but they're better. They are out. You can't deny on paper the Rockies are better now than they were 8 months ago. You can't deny that. Nobody can deny that. Now, is it going to make them not lose 100 games this year? That remains to be seen. But you can absolutely say that the Rockies are better. You can absolutely say that they have brought in guys that have raised the floor of this roster. You can absolutely say that the Rockies have given up not a lot to make themselves better. They're not ripping themselves apart, though some people say they should, ripping themselves apart from the inside out to make themselves better. They have gotten more talented through Jake McCarthy, through Lorenzen, through Rumfield, through Edward, through Pearson, through, all of these players. They've gotten better. And I can still see the Rockies becoming better even more with these signings, with the new development, with the new pitching staff. They have a chance to be better this season. I hope it's enough to not lose 100 games this season. They're not going to be a playoff team. If anybody's thinking they're going to be a playoff team, you're more ludicrous than I've been in the past. But you can honestly admit that the Rockies are better right now than they were 8 months ago. So that's just something to be excited about. That is something to absolutely be excited about. And pitchers and catchers report to spring training in less than 2 weeks. Spring training is right around the corner. Teams are already on social media posting about loading up their trucks and driving down to Arizona or Florida, depending on who plays in the Grapefruit League and the Cactus League. But they're headed down there. It is baseball season, baby. Baseball season is right around the freaking corner. Let's go. Let's get excited. There's so much to be excited about. There's so much to be fired up about when it comes to the Rockies. This is going to be exciting. This is going to be what everybody just, if you're a baseball fan, this is just your time, man. This is the time to be happy because everybody is fresh slate. Whether it's the Rockies, the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Athletics, the Diamondbacks, the Royals, whoever. Everybody is even right now. So there's so much to just get excited about. And I'm really looking forward to this season. I'm really looking forward to covering this season, not just the Rockies, but baseball in general. So, yeah. Now, let's dive into a bit of a weirder topic. Well, weird is not the word I want to use. I would more say strange, interesting. There's a lot of words to put to it. So, if you've been listening to the World Baseball Classic, it happens similar to the Olympics about every 4 years, 2026, it's coming around again. So teams are being announced for each country, and it'll actually be happening in March, kind of right around spring training time-ish. But it's weird right now because you're getting players who are really top MLB talent players, I wouldn't say, they're getting denied to play in the World Baseball Classic due to a weird insurance guideline. So I would say the biggest notable name is Miguel Rojas. He was hopefully wanting to play for Puerto Rico and play for his home country. But due to not being able to be insured by the World Baseball Classic, he got denied to play for Team Puerto Rico and play in the World Baseball Classic. And that sent an uproar through the baseball community. And then you also had Jose Altuve and Francisco Lindor. Both, they can't play for their countries. That's big, because especially Team Puerto Rico, they're already expected to be out with they don't or sorry, they won't have Carlos Correa, they won't have Victor Caratini, they won't have Emilio Payan, they won't have Jose Barrios, and they won't have Alexis Diaz. That's some huge players. Those are huge, talented players. And you're also not going to have Miguel Rojas? They're talking about pulling out because of this whole insurance thing. And to kind of give a quick breakdown, I'm going to give credit to Sean Spalding on Twitter. He covers a lot of the World Baseball Classic. He did a really good in-depth breakdown, but basically it's guaranteed salaries. Players go through an entrance and exit physicals to help distinguish whether a player got an injury during the World Baseball Classic or not, or if it was a pre-existing one prior to that. And they do have they have three criterias: the chronic injuries, which is repeated injuries over a number of years with multiple 60-day IL stints. Plus you have intermediate, which is multiple 10-day IL over 2 to 3 seasons. And then low risk is obviously little to no injury. But basically what it breaks down to is during these physicals or whatever, if they pass or if they deem them good enough, they'll insure them and guarantee their salary. If they don't insure them, no salary guaranteed. Now, and part of the reason why these players are being denied the World Baseball Classic without insurance is if the player misses any amount of time during the Major League Baseball season or spring training or whatever, because of an injury on the World Baseball Classic and they were not insured, MLB is not required to pay the player for any games they miss, because players get a game check every single game, roughly. I don't exactly know their pay system, but I know they get a game check. So they can choose. Now, Major League Baseball can choose to waive the insurance requirement and guarantee the player's salary if uninsured or not. But right now, if a player is deemed uninsurable and the MLB team won't guarantee their salary, it comes down to it's more of a choice, but player either play in the World Baseball Classic, risk uninsured and risk your salary, or uh they have to pay for insurance out of their own pocket, or miss the World Baseball Classic. But it's kind of interesting, and it's something that's not really talked about, and it doesn't really have communication. And I think if the World Baseball Classic or MLB just were communicating a little bit more, and even Sean gets into that, I think it would make it a little bit better, because right now there's a lot of fans up in uproar, especially Team Puerto Rico, because they're talking about pulling out. And I know down in Puerto Rico, baseball is a huge thing down there, and a lot of good Puerto Rican players are coming out of there right now. So it's a bummer to see. It's a bummer to see this, and it's a bummer that it's happening this way. I really hope in the future something can get figured out. I understand on the Major League Baseball side. I understand on the World Baseball Classic side. I understand it all around, and I really understand the players' frustrations. I really hope at some point in the future this can be resolved, but yeah, we shall see. So, yeah, that's as far as baseball stuff goes, that's kind of my breakdown. And then I'm going to jump into the I'm going to jump into talking about the Super Bowl. Doing a Super Bowl breakdown. I mean, you have two relatively good teams. Well, not just relatively good. You have two very good teams. You have on the Los Angeles Rams side, you have the MVP. I genuinely think Matthew Stafford has locked in the MVP. I think he is going to be the MVP. I don't think it's going to be Drake May, and that's not me being a somebody called me a salty Broncos fan. I'm not being a salty Broncos fan. I'm just looking at the stats, and I'm looking at the seasons comparatively speaking. I'm also looking at what Matthew Stafford had to deal with versus what Drake May had to deal with. Drake May gets to play the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins twice a year versus Matthew Stafford, who has to play in probably one of the most volatile divisions in football right now, when you have to face the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers twice a year. I know the Cardinals are in there, but the Cardinals don't really count. I look at it as that. And then on the other side, you have Sam Darnold with his resurrected career over in Seattle with a fantastic run game and a lethal defense. I mean, that defense is number one in point differential, number one in yard differential. I mean, they had one of the toughest schedules with an 11.2 margin of victory. All of these stats I'm looking at Pro Football Reference, because I actually like Pro Football Reference breakdowns instead of PFFs. Plus, take it or leave it on PFF stats, in my opinion. But I mean, and they're 19th in takeaways, but they're just a lethal team. And I think they're gonna punish Matthew Stafford. I mean, yes, the Los Angeles Rams have the top offense in points and yards. They have a middle of the road defense with only 5 takeaways. They're not, yeah. Actually, I don't think that stat is right, but I could be wrong. But they have a wicked good offense, but this screams, to me uh, vibes of Super Bowl 48. And I know I just gave PTSD to any Broncos fans out there. Because I still have PTSD from that game. But this defense for the Seattle Seahawks mixed with Sam Darnold, who is throwing the ball much better than he has his whole career, mixed with a damn good running game. I think the Seahawks are going to just control this game. They're going to milk the clock, run the ball down the Rams' throat. I mean, the Rams are 22nd in yardage differential. And yeah, their defensive rank overall is 10th in points and 17th in yards given up. I genuinely think this Seattle Seahawks defense is just going to have their way with the Rams offense. And then I really think the Seattle Seahawks offense is going to be able to just run the ball down the Rams' throat, milk the clock, time of possession, keep that Rams defense on the field, keep Matthew Stafford with that lethal offense off the field. And it's going to be good night Los Angeles by the third quarter, in my opinion. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's a damn good game. I hope it's a close, just grind it out. I want one of those old school games where the defenses are just tooth and nail every little bit, fighting it out, going at it, just grinding this, just, not giving up anything. Now I know for a lot of other football fans, they want the high scoring, the fireworks with the big play, the hit, the 74-yard throw, da 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 da. I'm old school. I want smash mouth, run the ball, run it down your throat, hard-nosed defense, not giving up points, not giving up yardage. Play that way. And I hope it's that way. I hope it's one of those where everybody's having to fight tooth and nail for this Super Bowl. But it's not. The more film I watch on the Seattle Seahawks, the more film I watch on the Los Angeles Rams. I'm not gonna lie, I've watched more Seahawks film than I have on the Rams. But the more I watch, the more I go, oh my God, this is a near carbon copy of the Legion of Boom. I would say more, they pressure the quarterback more than the Legion of Boom did, but this is a lethal defense. I can't say it enough. This defense is one of those that I was looking at the Broncos, especially after the Bo Nix situation, and I was going, yeah, I hope the Broncos can get to the Super Bowl. But if they do, I don't want to see Seattle because they're going to get absolutely killed with Jarrett Stidham. I wouldn't have been excited with Bo Nix. And that's not a shot at Bo Nix. That's just how utterly good this defense is. Utterly good. And so I look at the Rams, and yeah, the Rams have a better offense. The Rams have a top offense. But the Seattle Seahawks have a top defense. And statistics will show when push comes to shove, defense tends to come out on top. There's a reason why the phrase is defense wins championships. Don't make the mistake. Yeah, you can get excited about a high-flying offense, but when that defense comes to punch him in the mouth, I would bet on the defense more than I would bet on that offense. Plus, forgive me for my ignorance, I don't think the Rams have a better run game than the Seattle Seahawks. They just don't. So I really think the Seattle Seahawks, my score prediction, and I think I already made my score prediction last time, but if I didn't, today, this is my score prediction today. Seattle Seahawks, 38, Rams, 17. I do not see the Rams being able to hang in there the whole game. I hope I'm wrong. Like I said last time, I hope I'm wrong. But so far, I'm 2-0 on score predictions. So we'll see. All right, I think that's going to wrap things up. I hope you guys had a blast. I hope you guys had some fun. And I really hope that you guys came away learning some stuff, especially talking Moneyball, because that was a lot of fun to talk about, at least on my end. So I hope it was fun to listen to. And I hope to catch you guys in the next episode. Next episode, I know I said last episode that the episode I'm currently doing was supposed to be a football, like just straight football episode. Yeah, that changed with the whole Rockies thing. So, next episode will be heavy on football, maybe a little spring training talk, but the next episode will absolutely be heavy on football. I might even mix in some hockey. I know a couple of you hockey fans out there get excited about that one. But let's have some fun. I hope you guys have a great weekend, or had a great weekend. And I'll catch you guys in the next episode. This was the Baselines to Sidelines podcast. Nick out.